All right, so we're going to make a spout here. I'm going to show you two different methods to do it. The first one is going to be using a coil. Now, for a spout, it has to be hollow, of course, but we're going to start with a solid piece of clay. What I recommend is you're going to start your coil the same way we always do, except you do not have to make this super soft. It can be a little on the stiffer side. Now, you're also going to see, too, I'm going to make one side thicker than the other because when it attaches to the teapot, we want to make sure that we can blend that in. We can always add more clay around where we attach this, just like with handles. So I'm just going to roll this out a little bit. Again, always starting a little bit bigger than you think you need it because you can cut it down. You can't, add more clay on easily. All right, so I have my coil. I'm going to cut it down a little bit. Just because I know I'm not going to need like this whole crazy thing here. Now I'm going to take a paintbrush and I'm going to hold this coil in my hand. The reason why you have to hold the coil in your hand for this point is because we're going to push this paintbrush through, and if it starts to go at angles to try and poke out, I'll be able to feel that. When I start pushing this in, I'm not going to, push, too quickly, just kind of like wiggling back and forth. And of course, the paintbrush is shedding into here. That's definitely not what you want to happen, but let's not worry about that right now. And you're going to notice I kind of like turn the coil occasionally so I can feel if it's going through more evenly. I'm just kind of like wiggle twisting and pushing upward. Okay, it's gone through the other side now. So now what you can do is you can actually roll the coil more to smooth out that surface. And you can even get it to go a little bit thinner towards the end. However, if you want to make the opening larger, you would actually take, I'm just going to take this out, put it back in real quick so it's not stuck. You would actually hold the paintbrush and roll gently. Put some pressure down. And that is going to start to widen the hole that you have here so it's a little bit more open if you want it to be that way. But again, I could really get this to open up. You can see how much wider that's getting. So at this point, I would be ready to try and attach it to my teapot. However, if like this is my teapot, I'm not going to just stick it out the side and have it sticking straight out. I want it to be at an angle because if you don't make it at an angle, the liquid will all fall out. So what I'm going to do is cut this wherever I think the bottom will be at an angle. Follow that, rip that off. And I'm actually going to turn my paintbrush around because we can use this paintbrush when we're ready to start to attach it. So I have this at an angle here so that when it hits a surface, when we score and slip, you can see that angle is much different. We can even come up higher as well. Now you can see there the proportions of that are not what I would be using for this. It's just the first round object that I see in front of me that is round, like a teapot. Now you can see that you can start getting this flat if you're not careful. So you want to be careful about that. As for the top, if you want it to pour out nicer, we would want to cut this at an angle as well. So I'm going to cut this in the opposite direction. Be careful, you want to make sure your angles are like opening and closing equally. This is being rushed, so we all know that when that happens, it's not going to be as neat as it should be. So keep that in mind when you are observing this demo. So now we have a thicker base, thinner top, and I'd be ready to attach this to my teapot. Please mute your music. Thank you. Let's imagine that this piece of clay is the outside of your teapot where you want to attach it. So we forget about the rest of this. We are pretending this is a giant round ball and this is just where we want to attach it. You can actually take your paintbrush and start to kind of push it in where you want it to go through in the teapot itself. Okay, you want to make sure that hole though is a little bit bigger than you think you need it. so the liquid can go through that easier. But you can see now this is sitting flush. I could take this out, score and slip in here, and then I want to blend it in. And you're probably going to need to add a little bit of clay around here. For the top, you could then cut different angles. So I'm just going to slice straight through this. And then maybe I'll kind of like flange the edge a little so it comes down, so it pours a little bit neater. And again, this would be the side of a teapot, and you can see that's from the top down, side view, bottom, and all that stuff. You would score, slip, blend, and that is a coil spout. I'm going to show you guys how to make a spout with a spout making tool. If you are remote and you want one of these, let me know. This is our spout making tool. It's just a piece of wood with weird shapes. So what we're going to do is take a slab and smooth it out a little bit. Again, do not have this soaked. This makes shorter spouts. This side makes longer ones. I usually go for the longer because you might want to cut it down anyway, and you could still do the same thing, a same size for both. So I'm going to take this clay and I'm actually going to cut it straight one part first. All right, and then I'm going to roll it, and we're going to cut where it meets. So that's going to be like that. Open it up, cut that piece off. Okay, then we're going to form it next to it, and this would be blended in. We would clean this up with a sponge and a rib. Then it would be taken to a hairdryer to set. Prior to the hairdryer, we want to cut this to fit our teapot. So we're doing the same angles again as we did with the coil, but we're just going to do it with this now. All right, so I have it sideways. This would be great for a larger teapot. And then the top again, I would have at an angle, looking from the top down, make sure I'm doing this right. Again, this is a sloppy brush job. We would take this to the hairdryer, and it would pop off of here when it's a little drier. I don't know if I'll be able to get this off of here. Because what happens is the wood gets soaked with the water from the clay, and it'll get stuck. So I'm just going to slice this open real quick and try to get it apart from here. Wow, it's really stuck on there. Okay. So then you would just score and slip this back together, which when this is a little bit drier, it would be easier and you wouldn't lose the shape as easily. But this is what would attach to your teapot next. Again, massively disproportionate. Score, slip, blend. You can still, kind of flare it out if you want a little. You definitely want to neaten this up. This can also be used for like necks of things if you're doing creatures and whatnot. And that is the spout tool. Mug or a teapot spout. So, if you have questions about this, please reach out to me. I will make this video available. And that is spout making.